I'm Johni Lacore of Grandma's Scraps, and today for the virtual Skillshare I'm going to be showing you how to make reusable menstrual pads. So these are the things that you will need to do that. We will make a pattern for our menstrual pads, both for the outside and for the inside that will be the absorbency. We will need pens. I like to use a rotary blade when I am cutting fabrics, but you can also just use regular scissors. You will need some sort of cutting mat that is safe to be cut on, whatever that looks like for you. We will need about an 8x10 piece of flannel for one menstrual pad. This could be old pajamas or a bed sheet, or use whatever flannel you have. You can also buy it as well. We will need also an 8x10 piece of polyurethane laminate. So on one side it's slick, and this is to help with like leak proof. It's often used in cloth diapers. And we will need terry cloth. So this is what's going to be the absorbency inside the pad. You can use an old towel, or you can also buy yardage of terry cloth at the fabric store. You will need a pen for marking your pattern onto your fabric. And at the end of our project, we put snaps on the pad to hold it around the underwear. So you can buy a tool to install snaps on fabric. This was, I think, $14 to $15. It's not too bad. And it came originally with a pack of snaps. And you will need a sewing machine. So, the first thing we're going to do is we will be tracing our template onto our fabric. So this template is based off of a reusable pad that I had years ago that I really liked. I really liked the design of it, having the snaps that go around the underwear, because in the past when I had tried reusable underwear that didn't have snaps, it just slid back and forth on my underwear, and that didn't help with like leaking and things like that. So I much prefer the snaps. So my pattern for this, the menstrual pad pattern comes out to be about 10 1/4 in its length, and about 7 3/4 in its width. So if you just make the 10 1/4 this way and 7 3/4 this way, then you'll kind of just connect it in a rounded way, and it looks like this. And then for the insert that we use to cut our terry cloth, it's just a rectangle with rounded edges. This one says that it's 9.5 by 2 inches. I like to make the top and the bottom piece of terry cloth a little bit bigger than the ones in the center. So I make the top one probably about 2.5 to 3 inches. And I'll show you that here shortly. So the way that our edges are curved, it's easier to trace the pattern onto the fabric, to sew around the edge, and then to cut it out from the fabric once it's together. So you will put the polyurethane laminate down first. You want the slick side down on the table, and you will put the right side of your flannel on top of the polyurethane. And then I like to pin the edges to keep those pieces together while I trace my pattern and also while I sew. So then I'm going to put the pattern down. I want to make sure that there is a little bit of overhang on every side so that there's room for us when we cut, that it's not right along the seam. You can use fabric markers for this. I just use a regular pen and it seems to do just fine for me. I try to use everyday things that I have around the house, but I don't spend a lot of money on these things. The whole point is to save money and to have reusable products. So this is what it looks like with the pattern. So I'm going to sew this really quick. When I sew it though, I am going to leave a gap along one of the side edges so that I can turn it right side out once I have it sewn. So I'll show you in just a second. So I just sewed right along that edge and I left space here along the side for when I turn it right side out. So you will trim around the outside of that so you have some space from the very edge here. That's what this one looks like. So then you're gonna go around the entire edge and you're gonna cut little slits in the fabric up to your stitches, but not through them. And the reason that you're doing that is so that they're not straight edges. When you turn it right side out, you want it to curve. So there's not extra fabric there, it helps so there isn't bunching or anything. So once you do that, then you're gonna turn it right side out. That slick side of the polyurethane is gonna be on the inside and the right side of the flannel will be outside. Make sure you push all those edges out really good. You can use like a chopstick or something as well to push those edges out. Just be careful that you don't push too hard. So this is what it looks like once you turn it right side out. So you have that flannel on one side and then you have the polyurethane on the back. So once we turn it right side out, we'll just set that aside while we make our inside, our terry cloth. So you'll take your terry cloth and you'll take the pattern and you will cut out those long rectangles of terry cloth. So like I said, I like the top and the bottom to be a little bit wider than the center. It's easier for my machine to sew through when it's a little bit wider, and then it doesn't have to sew through all the layers. And when you sew around the edge of the terry cloth, it definitely does not have to be pretty. It's just keeping those layers together. We're gonna sew over them anyway in the menstrual pad, so it's really just keeping them together while we do that. So here I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers of terry cloth. I just pin them together. And then you will sew around the outside edge of that terry cloth, which I've already done on this one. So it ends up being just a rectangle with rounded edges, and this is the insert for the menstrual pad. So then I will fold this rectangle in half and insert it into the menstrual pad. You want to line it up so that it's going right down the middle of that menstrual pad. and it should be about the same width as this end portion here on each end. So I can feel it, it's here, the edges of it are here. So I like to put 3 stitches down the center of the menstrual pad in order to keep it in place. So I will first sew down this liner, 3 stitches, and then I will sew a top stitch along the whole outside. But first I'm going to sew those 3 stitches and then I'll show you. When you sew at the top and at the bottom, be sure that you put a back stitch at the top and the bottom so that those stitches don't come out when you wash it and things. When I'm stitching this, I like to stitch from the top down, and then I rotate it and I stitch the other direction so that if there's any shifting, it balances itself out and doesn't shift all down in one direction. So I've got the 3 stitches down the center of the pad. I'm going to trim all of that loose thread from the ends. And then next will be the top stitching all the way around the pad. So when you are here in the spot that you left open so you can turn it right side out, just make sure you tuck it and you get those 2 flaps from the front and the back in those stitches so that they don't come out from the stitches. I like to start on that area so I'm sure that I have that lined up and sewn correctly. Okay, just have a couple things to trim. And then we have our pad here. So the last step that we need to do is to put those snaps on that are going to make it go around the underwear, just like that. So there are 3 components to the snaps, and you will find directions in them, so you won't have to worry about that. There will be 2 little tiny pointed, it's hard to see. Those will go in opposite directions. So the flat side on one will go in this direction, and the flat side will go on the back, the other side. What I like to do to be sure that those snaps are lined up right is you will get like a sharp tool that you will poke the hole in before you feed those through. And I like to fold the pad over each other, like how it's going to be lined up. And then I will stick the tool through both layers to ensure that my holes are lined up. I will take the tool out and keep it on one side, stick that piece through the side that has the hole, and then stick the other part of it together, and then you'll use the tool that clamps it to put the snap in place. And then I will take the tool out that I used, that's the sharp point, and then feed that piece through. And take the third and last component of the snap, and that will be clamped down into place. So then, when we snap the pad, it stays together. So you have a pad, just like that, snaps. And actually it will snap on this side, just like that. So the flannel side is what is against the body, way more comfortable, and then the polyurethane laminate is what is on the back to prevent leaking. You can make the liner, that terry cloth liner, as thick as you'd like. I would just be careful to ensure that your sewing machine can handle it. This one with 5 layers is a little thin. I would probably do, I have a heavy duty sewing machine, and I know that my sewing machine can handle up to 8 layers of terry cloth, of this terry cloth at least. And this I bought at the fabric store. So the next ones that I will do will probably be a little heavier. This would probably be more of a light day's pad. So again, I am Johni Lacore from Grandma's Scraps, and that was a little tutorial about how to make your own menstrual pads. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I have a website, which is grandmasscraps.com, and an Instagram, which is grandmas_scraps, and my email is grandmas.scraps@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good one.